There are moments in wrestling that hit harder than any finisher. Moments when the crowd stops chanting, when the lights feel too bright, when the character fades and the person beneath begins to speak. It's that rare silence in an arena when fiction melts away, when you can feel the weight behind every word, the lines blur, and suddenly you're not watching a show anymore. You're watching someone's truth. These are the wrestling promos that will make you cry. When people talk about wasted potential, one name always rises to the surface: Dolph Ziggler. He had the looks, the showmanship, the precision that made every match feel like art. He could sell pain better than anyone, make his opponents look like gods. But that gift became his curse. He made others unforgettable, and in the process, vanished himself.
It should have been me.
Year after year, he was called a workhorse, reliable, dependable, words that sound flattering until you realize they're just polite ways to say replaceable. By 2016, the cracks were showing. The feud with The Miz wasn't about belts anymore. It was survival. Every time he climbed back up, Miz found a way to drag him down again. And one night, Ziggler walked out with nothing left. No swagger, no smile. Just a man with nothing left to protect. He held the mic like it might fall from his hand and said softly,
This is all I have.
His voice trembled, the kind of tremor that only comes when words cost something.
This couple minutes a night, 300 nights a year, this is my everything. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone when they know that I live for this.
Then came the line that cracked the room open.
This is what I love, but you know what? Sometimes things you love don't always love you back.
You could feel it, the exhaustion in his eyes, the years spent trying to prove he mattered. It wasn't a promo anymore. It was a confession. The ring lights hummed faintly as he stood there, chest heaving, head bowed. For once, Dolph Ziggler didn't look like the man who sold pain. He looked like the man living it.
And you have friends and family and fans coming up to you telling you, why do you still do it? Why are you still here? Why do you subject yourself to this every night?
And in that silence, the crowd saw themselves. Every overworked, underpraised person who's ever given too much to something that gave too little. They understood him. Because that night wasn't about a match anymore. It was about a man realizing the dream he'd built might never love him back the way he loved it.
And maybe my career didn't always turn out the way I thought it would, you know? I thought it would have been better. I thought I earned something. I thought I would be a bigger star, but you know what? I just can't stop myself.
But if Ziggler's voice cracked from not being seen, Eddie Guerrero's burned from the opposite side. He had been seen, celebrated, adored, and then lost everything. Ziggler showed us the exhaustion of giving too much. Eddie showed us what it costs when you take too far and fight to climb out of the fire you set yourself. Eddie Guerrero didn't need to tell stories to make people love him. He lived them. He lied. He cheated. He stole. He danced through chaos like he couldn't be touched. Fans adored him for it because every grin hid a truth, that he was fighting something bigger than his opponents. By 2004, that fight stopped being fiction. It became survival. When he stood across from Brock Lesnar, the jokes stopped. You could feel it in the air before he spoke. Something real was coming. Lesnar taunted him about his addiction, his failures, his past.
Eddie Guerrero, I really hope you are addicted to losing.
And Eddie didn't hide. He took a breath, looked down, and said it like a man facing his reflection.
I am an addict. About 3 years ago, Holmes, they carried me straight into rehab. Through all that time, bro, through all those 3 years, not only did I wind up losing my job, I lost my wife, I lost my kids, and I lost myself.
The words hung in the air like smoke. The laughter, the swagger, the mischief, gone. What stood there wasn't the trickster. It was the man who'd been broken and somehow lived through it.
I disgraced my race, I disgraced my family, and I disgraced myself.
Each sentence came slower, heavier. He wasn't performing anymore. He was remembering. Then his tone changed. His breath steadied. His chest rose. You could feel the strength coming back into him.
Day by day, I have earned my life back.
He wasn't asking for forgiveness anymore. He was daring anyone to doubt him.
See, when I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted. I'm addicted to the high that I get from them. I'm addicted to the high that I get when I go home and I tell my family, hey, I'm doing it.
That line hit like thunder. Not clever, not dramatic, just real. Every scar, every bruise, every sleepless night, it all spoke louder than the mic ever could. When he beat Brock Lesnar and raised that title, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like resurrection. Not the clean kind they script, the kind you crawl toward, bloodied and gasping. That belt wasn't gold to him. It was weight. It was memory. It was everything he refused to let destroy him. And when he lifted it high, he wasn't celebrating. He was forgiving himself. Years later, every frog splash, every three amigo, every sly grin carries more than nostalgia. It carries his ghost. Because Eddie Guerrero didn't just win matches. He showed the world what it means for a man to die and still find a way to rise again. Eddie's story ended in light. A man who fell into the fire and came out reborn. But legacy doesn't always heal like that. For some, it lingers, waiting in the bloodline, passed from father to son like a gift wrapped in guilt. That's where Cody Rhodes stands. Not fighting his demons, but inheriting them. Cody Rhodes was born into storytelling, the son of a man whose words could move crowds to tears. The American dream, Dusty Rhodes.
I just thank God that there are people like yourself come out to see the American dream.
Dusty painted hope for the broken and gave meaning to struggle. And Cody grew up in the glow of that myth, trying to find his own light without being swallowed by it. He always had a way with words, a gift for turning pain into poetry. Cody's promos carried a kind of honesty that made the audience stop and listen.
This isn't about the dead, it's about the living. It's about the 14 years it took me to go from undesirable to goddamn deniable.
He didn't just speak, he opened himself. Whether it was leaving WWE, building a company from nothing, or coming back to finish his father's dream, he knew how to make every word feel lived in.
As I cannot physically put that title belt into my father's hands, I cannot bestow it upon the American dream, Dusty Rhodes, but I certainly can put it around the waist of the American nightmare.
By 2023, his story seemed perfect on paper. Cody versus Roman Reigns, hero versus king, the final chapter of a legacy. But that night, standing across from Paul Heyman, something shifted. Cody dropped the character, the performer faded, and the man stepped forward. He didn't talk about destiny, or revenge, or titles. He talked about gratitude.
I have an unparalleled respect for you, and I think you know why.
He spoke about the year 2000, when Dusty Rhodes was broke, humiliated, and out of work. When Paul Heyman, running a struggling ECW, gave him a booking, a paycheck, a way to keep his family alive.
ECW gave my father his confidence back, and I can never, ever repay you for that.
For a moment, the ring didn't feel like a stage anymore. It felt sacred. You could see it in Heyman's eyes, that flicker of real emotion that can't be faked. But Heyman is a craftsman of cruelty. He turned that truth into a blade.
He told me you were his favorite son, but Roman Reigns was the son he always wanted.
The air collapsed. Cody didn't blink, didn't smirk, didn't hide behind a line. The camera caught everything. The twitch in his jaw, the water in his eyes, the slow, painful realization that he was still trying to earn the approval of a man who wasn't there to see it. He didn't yell back. He didn't fire another line. He just whispered, "You just made it personal." But it wasn't rage that filled his voice. It was ache, the kind that builds over years of pretending you've moved on. That night, the match didn't matter anymore. The story cracked open, and something real came out. And for one fleeting moment, wrestling stopped being theater and became truth. Cody's silence left something heavy in the air, a reminder that even the most beloved heroes can crumble when legacy turns into a mirror. If Cody carried the burden of his father's dream, Randy Orton lived beneath the weight of his own name. Where Cody searched for love, Orton demanded respect. Both men haunted by the same truth. The business only remembers you until it doesn't. Randy Orton has been wrestling longer than some fans have been alive. Since 2002, he's moved through eras like a ghost that refuses to fade. Precision, poise, longevity, no one's matched it. And yet, his name never sits beside Hogan, Austin, or Cena. That quiet exclusion built in him like venom. Until 2018, when it finally spilled out. After tearing through Jeff Hardy on SmackDown, Orton stood in the ring, motionless. No pose, no grin, just silence. The crowd stared at him, unsure whether to cheer or fear. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold, deliberate. Not the voice of a villain, but of a man choking on the weight of being forgotten.
When I began my career, who's around now that was around then? Nobody. I am the one constant in the WWE. Every superstar that comes down that aisle eats at the table that I set for them.
It wasn't arrogance, it was resentment. The kind that festers when you give your body to something that stops loving you back. He had torn ligaments, broken bones, bled for decades, while the spotlight moved to the next new name.
Because I don't paint my face and flail my arms like some kind of idiot. I compete all year round and don't just show up come springtime for WrestleMania. Is that why you don't respect me?
Every word carried 20 years of scars. The ring, once his throne, now felt like a cage. That night, he wasn't Randy Orton the heel. He was Randy Orton the craftsman, the survivor, furious that the world he built had left him behind. He wasn't asking for cheers, he was demanding acknowledgement.
I didn't pay my dues in front of hundreds of people, and I paid my dues in front of millions and millions of people.
He wasn't bragging, he was reminding. He had shaped eras, defined rivalries, carried the product through chaos, and somehow still stood in the shadows. That night, the Viper dropped the act. No legend killer, no apex predator, just a man staring down time itself, realizing that even legends fade faster than their scars can heal.
I've won the world title 13 times. I have won them all on multiple occasions, but you still don't respect me.
And in that stillness, Randy Orton reminded everyone watching that silence, when spoken with truth, can cut deeper than any RKO ever could. If Orton's voice was the sound of a man being forgotten, John Cena's was the sound of a man who could never escape being remembered. John Cena's career is nearing its final chapter now. Celebrated, respected, even loved. But it wasn't always that way. For years, he was the lightning rod of wrestling's divided crowd. The man everyone blamed. Too perfect, too polished, too corporate. Every arena split in two, half chanting his name, half begging him to fall. Through it all, he kept smiling, kept carrying the company on his back, pretending the weight didn't hurt. But after TLC 2009, that mask cracked. Cena had just lost the WWE Championship to Sheamus. When he walked to the ring the next night, he didn't look like a superhero. He looked human. There were no slogans, no jokes, just a man standing under the lights, trying to steady his breath.
I needed to take a second, and I wanted to apologize to anybody that I might have let down last night. This is kind of hard to understand, but sometimes you can try so hard at something. Sometimes you can be so prepared and still fail.
He paused, the crowd unsure whether to cheer or stay quiet.
That a man's character is not judged after he celebrates a victory, but by what he does when his back is against the wall.
Then he said,
"Failure has made me who I am today."
And then came the line that defined him.
You never give up. You pick yourself up. You brush yourself off. You push forward. You move on. You adapt. You overcome. That is what I believe.
The audience erupted, but Cena didn't smile. He wasn't preaching. He was convincing himself. For once, the man who carried the company wasn't the invincible face of WWE. He was tired, he was broken, but he still believed in standing up again. That night, the phrase "never give up" stopped being a catchphrase. It became a promise, a quiet vow between a man and the millions who watched him stumble and rise again.
John Cena's message helped my family. I got his wristband that he gave to me, and when my mom was having her 6-hour surgery, I gave her the wristband that I told her to never give up.
His words outlived the title, the feud, the moment. They became something passed down, written on signs, printed on shirts, tattooed on hearts. A reminder from the man who spent his career proving that strength isn't about winning, it's about enduring. Years later, those same words would echo in a different ring, a different company, through a man wrestling with his own reflection. Hangman Adam Page walked out on AEW Dynamite in October 2021. He stood there under the lights, holding a microphone that felt heavier than gold. Across from him waited Kenny Omega, his former partner, brother, rival. But Page wasn't there to sell revenge. He was there to speak truth. He talked about how he and his friends had left everything behind.
In 2019, my friends and I, we left our home in Ring of Honor, we left our home in New Japan to start All Elite Wrestling, and I was excited then.
They wanted to change the world, but somewhere along the way, the world changed them. His voice softened.
I lost to Jericho, I lost to Pac, and then it felt like I started to lose a hell of a lot more. I lost my friends, and truthfully, I lost myself.
The crowd stayed still for a heartbeat, then began chanting in unison. Page smiled faintly. The chant grew louder, almost like they were reminding him who he was. He explained that Cowboy wasn't a character, it was a mindset.
Cowboy shit was learning to let the past live in the past and accept new friends into my life.
He paused again, the crowd roaring now. Then he said,
The thing, when you fall off, you get back up, you get back on the horse, you keep riding, because to me, that is cowboy shit.
By the end, His voice cracked. He didn't hide it. He let the silence breathe before finishing.
So the promise I can't make is that in Full Gear, I will give you everything. I will give you every fiber of my being. The one thing, though, that I am 100% sure about is that in Full Gear, I will give you cowboy shit.
A man finding himself again through the people who never stopped believing he could. And when Hangman finally won the AEW World Championship at Full Gear, it didn't feel like a storyline closing. It felt like a circle completing. The same message that once lifted Cena years before, finding hope through failure, now reborn in another man's voice. Because in the end, whether it's the bright lights of WWE or the raw energy of AEW, wrestling's truest moments aren't scripted. They're the pauses between words, the breaths between heartbreak and hope, where the performers stop acting and simply speak. What's your favorite wrestling promo of all time? And which one should we feature in the next part? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen to keep these stories alive.